You do?
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I can start it off unless we're waiting for anyone else. I think we've got everybody though. So I'll go through the script. This is Rob Pettit, Chair of the Needham Board of Library Trustees. First, I'd like to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. First, for the Library Director, Assistant Director, and staff, Anne McFate, Director.
Here.
Thank you. Dimitri Kyriakis, Assistant Director.
Here.
Let's see. I don't think I see Jeff here.
No,
No, you've got me tonight.
Okay.
Jeff's on vacation, so Gay's taking the minutes along with our recording.
Okay. Thanks, Gay.
Welcome.
Okay. Let's see. Deborah Lovett, Circulation Supervisor.
Here, thank you.
Thank you. And Sarah Breen, Reference Supervisor.
Here.
And we've got Gail and Dennett as well.
Here.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. I'll next go through the library trustees. Carol Thomas.
Here.
Anna Giraldo Kerr.
Here.
Kay Cahill.
Here.
Rick Hardy.
Here.
Tom Harkins.
Here.
Rob Pettit, myself as chair here. And Jay Fialkov.
I'm here.
Thank you. And then from the Library Foundation of Needham, we've got Joan Smith. Joan, can you hear us? Sorry to call you back.
I didn't realize I was muted. Yes, I hear you fine. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'll introduce the meeting quickly. Good evening. It is now 7 p.m. on Tuesday, June 8th, 2021, and this is an open meeting of the Needham Board of Library Trustees. This meeting is being conducted remotely due to the state of emergency in the Commonwealth and consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 10th, 2020. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded. This meeting will allow public comments by means of the chat function only. For this meeting, the Needham Board of Library Trustees is convening by Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all participants are participating by video conference. On video conference, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to unintentionally screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For effective and clear conduct of our business, for compliance with the governor's executive order, and to ensure accurate meeting minutes, I will restate our ground rules. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. The chair will invite members by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. To the extent practicable and within the bounds of open meeting law requirements for conducting a virtual meeting, we will keep the meeting style informal as we do when we meet in person. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. And for any response, please wait until the chair recognizes you so that we do not speak over each other. Feel free to wave to get my attention. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. Any member of the public signed into the meeting as an attendee may submit written comment or question via the chat after identifying his, her, or their name and address only. And the assistant library director will monitor the chat inbox and alert the chair to submissions there. The chat submissions will be recorded and become part of the official record of the meeting. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote, a requirement of the governor's executive order of March 10th, 2020. I now request a motion to automatically continue this meeting to Tuesday, July 13th, 2021 at 7 p.m. with the same Zoom ID number, our next regularly scheduled meeting, should any technical difficulty arise tonight to keep us from completing this meeting.
So moved.
Okay, thanks, Carol.
Second.
We've got a second. All right, I will go through the roll call then. Jay?
I approve, yes.
Thank you. Rick?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Great. We've got through that. We can start off today with the minutes of the May 11th meeting. Did anyone have any comments to those minutes that Ann circulated? Okay,
Gay had a correction on page, oh, where was it? Gay, what page was it on?
Page 9, retirement of library director.
Oh, yeah.
Process for selecting successor.
Right. Third line from the bottom says that Gay gathered resources for developing job descriptions for directors, and she says she didn't, so somebody's not getting credit for doing that.
was that Jay perhaps?
Well, I know that I shared some resources with Rob and Kay. Yes. I wasn't sure how to distribute it to everyone because of the open meeting, and Rob and Kay were leading the effort. So back in April, I think I shared my some thoughts, including some reference and other samples.
Well, Kay and Gay rhyme, so I suspect that's where the problem is.
Okay.
So we're going to
Oh.
put down J,
Yeah,
or we're
that's-
putting down K.
Okay.
That's true. Kay, said that Jay shared resources.
That's right.
I just had one other small
And
thing.
I'm sorry, Carol, but is there a way for me to just share that email with everyone else, or does doing that just violate the open meeting rules?
I think I think Kay already communicated.
Okay, fair enough.
Communicated to her, yeah.
I think, my understanding is circulation of materials without deliberation is not a violation, but, sort of discussing and deliberating any materials ahead of a meeting would be an issue.
Got it. Okay.
Rob,
Yes, Carol?
I just had one other thing on page 2, under number 5, which is continued about FinCom vendor financial reports on that page 2, the second full paragraph that starts Rob continued. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's something that said Carol Thomas noted that sentence.
Mhm.
That the trustees have budgeted $12,000 in state aid funds to pay for a space utilization study by the Collins Center. And then it kind of goes wrong. Optimally to precede carpet replacement was my comment. That could be in parens, and that they also need to revisit the security system. I wasn't suggesting that the library is going to replace the carpet, but only that the order of events was to study the space before the process of recarpeting, which is much needed, takes place, and that is a building maintenance budget item, actually.
Carol, can you post that in the chat, please, the correction you're looking for? So that
Sure,
that wording.
sure. Now?
Yep.
All right, you gotta test me.
And Carol, since I think we got the gist of the change, would you be comfortable with us going ahead and voting to accept the minutes with those changes?
Of course.
Okay. In that case, unless there are other changes, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Okay. And do we have a second?
Second?
All right. I'll run through the roll call. Jay,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
thank you. Tom,
Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
Kay,
Okay, yes.
Carol,
Aye.
and myself, aye. All right, we can move on to the director's report, and I'll hand it off to Ann.
Okay, first I want to share the cards with you that people sent, saying thank you for all you did and wonderful to be open. This one came with a box of candy too. And then this is another one. It was nice to get the cards, and everyone who came in was in such a good mood. It was really terrific. Let's see.
Very, very exciting to have
Yes,
the library
yes.
open again.
And one thing that I want to add is that we're adding a self-check, a mobile self-check. You get an app for it once it's set up, and you can check your own materials out with the mobile self-check. So that will be something. People don't want to go to the circulation desk and check materials out. They can check them out themselves.
That is active, Ann.
Pardon?
That is active. So if they have downloaded the Minuteman app, it is active if they are signed on as Needham.
I actually helped somebody Saturday around 10 of 5 when she was looking for a book, and I was saying, we're closing soon. And she goes, can I do it on my app? I said, yeah. And I showed her, and she was out of there.
Terrific, terrific.
What is the app called? So we can find it.
It's
It's
a
the
Minuteman.
Minuteman Library application that you can get from the App Store. It lets you do your searches. It allows you to also control your holds, place holds.
Oh, yeah.
and you can
I
now
use that already, right.
Yep, and
So
it lets you'll find it. So if you go to your account, you'll see it's one of the listings now.
Will it say Capira on it?
It will. It's Capira. Now be aware
Capira
that
mobile
it's only
self-check.
working right now on iPhones. It's not
Yeah.
working on the Androids yet. It's still to come.
Right, okay. That, I believe, is the only thing I want to add to my written report, unless you have questions about anything on the first 4.5 pages that were written.
Yeah, I'd like some feedback on the owl. It still looks like a lot of people have viewed it. What's the reaction?
On the OWL, the device we're talking about buying.
Correct, yeah.
So a couple of libraries have already bought it. Lexington has 2, a few other libraries looking into it. Minuteman itself is going to buy a couple that they can lend out for libraries to try out. I'm going to attend the foundation meeting on Thursday night to talk about it with Gay, and I'll have a little more technical information on it. It's called an OWL because it's literally like this roundish white thing that has 8 speakers and microphones and 2 cameras. So it looks like eyes. So it allows you to synthesize, a live meeting and hybridize it, make it also broadcast as a Zoom meeting and have people participate from both sides. The whole, it's about $1,000 with what they call a conference. I forget the name, a conference kit where you get some other things with it. The total package could be $1,500, where it's designed in that sense for somebody who may not be technically oriented. So if you're at the meeting, it's very minimal setup. You won't have to be very technically oriented to do it. So we'll explore all that. I'll talk about that a little more on Thursday at the foundation. My pitch is going to be that it could be shared between the library trustees, the foundation board, and the Friends board. So all 3 organizations can, if the foundation helps us buy it, all 3 boards can share it, for their meetings. I know we're going to go live at some point, but the idea is that the people can still participate through Zoom.
Yeah, so it works well. It's been,
It seems out of all there's 4 or 5 different, it's kind of like Zoom, right? Before all this happened, Zoom was very little heard of. The same thing with the OWL. It was kind of used, but then once all this happened, it became quite popular. So out of Minuteman tested 2 or 3 other ones. They didn't think they were that good. This one gets the best reviews. We have the gentleman's contact. I think the company is here in Massachusetts. So we have his contact details. And if Minuteman has already bought one that we can maybe borrow, I'll see if I can arrange to bring that to a meeting. But if not, I can certainly get more information on it. But yeah.
great. All right. And then if Dimitri, you probably could talk to this, but I'm kind of interested in terms of Sarah looking into. Tell me about Wildberry.
Library. That's
Yeah, that looks interesting.
Yeah, so it's like a service that connects with our catalog. So it tells you all of our new materials that we add every week.
Yeah.
So we can link it to the website, and you can sign up to get a newsletter every week with an email notification of all the new items that we get. And in the email, it links directly to our catalog, so they can click on the title and bring them to the catalog. They have like social media templates on there, so you can easily post to like Facebook, all the new stuff with like nice pictures and things. Because right now I'm doing like a new items list every month, but it's not like, it doesn't have pictures. It's just like a Word document basically. And I think like this, it's pretty cheap. It's only $500 for a year. And I think it would be really cool to have that.
Yeah, it sounds it. And I imagine it will be able to link eventually to our new website. And we could sort of,
Yeah.
that could be on the first page.
Mhm.
Yeah, it sounds very neat.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And would now be a good time. This seems like kind of a good lead in to talk about our meeting formats in the coming months. You know, as everybody's probably seen, the state of emergency is ending on the 15th of this month, so just a week from today. But there is legislation to extend the ability to conduct virtual meetings through September 1st. My understanding is that legislation is still being considered by the legislature, but is put forward by Governor Baker. And I would assume that it has a pretty good chance of passing in the near future. But I just wanted to open that up to the trustees. You know, there was a memo. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jay.
No, I thought you were just asking for thoughts. My initial reaction is that I look forward to getting together in person with everybody, but I wonder, given the possibility of summer vacations and people being away, that we perhaps plan for over the course of July and August, we keep it on Zoom with an idea of perhaps, you know, doing them again in person starting in September. That was just my initial thought about it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a editorial in the Globe, you know, suggesting or recommending or promoting the continuation of maybe hybrid meetings, because it would, their feeling is, in some of the, I guess, some of the studies have shown that there's actually more participation because people can be cooking dinner and participating in a meeting, as opposed to, you know, having to go someplace. So the Globe had recommended that they hope that the legislature will pass.
Do we have a record of how many people who are not part of the meeting are attending the meeting, to get a sense about whether that has changed?
Yeah, not for us, probably.
Actually, tonight you've got 9 people in your audience. And we've had more some meetings.
Hello?
So can we see them, Gail? And the reason I asked is when I talked to Dan Matthews, I just bumped into him at the front of town hall, and he said to me that he saw that I was on their meeting, the select board meeting. I was listening in. He goes, "So why were you there?" And I realized that the select board can see who's at their meetings.
That's because they're
We
all
can
named.
too.
We can?
Yeah.
I don't see
Yeah.
anyone.
You go to
Yeah.
Go down to
attendees.
participants
Oh, participants. Oh,
Click on
I see.
that.
Okay.
and see attendees.
Click
Attendees.
on it. and
Click
you'll
on
see
that and it'll show you the 9 who the 9 attendees are.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
Rob-
Anna, you
Rob?
raise your hands.
Yeah, if you are looking for comments, I think that there is value in remaining connected to the community through through technology. Technology has served us well. And given that our strategic plan, although is ending, but I suspect that the new strategic plan will include a portion of community outreach in some shape or form, that we consider incorporating and integrating this hybrid, maybe in some fashion that works for the library and that the town is okay with, but that is an element that we shouldn't do away with, because it has increased the visibility of the library. There's created, if we record meetings also, folks can go back at their own time and review materials. And now that we're inviting, we have the Zoom link, maybe we could have even, the agenda is available so they can go and look at past meetings. And I think that's been incredibly valuable for the library to become even a more visible part of the town.
Yeah, and there was a memorandum that Kate Fitzpatrick circulated to the select board in I believe late May about how the hybrid meetings might work. And right now it sounds like effectively for boards other than the select board and the school board and the zoning board, it's just one or the other. It's either in person, or to the extent that the law has changed, we would keep it exclusively on Zoom. It sounds like, the goal is to allow hybrid meetings like this in the future. Right now, it requires some equipment that we don't have for boards other than those 3 boards that I mentioned, unless you get the select board to specifically approve it. So my thought was, as much as I'd like to go back to in-person for next month's meeting, keep it on Zoom for now, because that doesn't require the specialized equipment. And then hopefully over the summer, the town as well as the state kind of figure out how to do hybrid meetings. They'll buy whatever equipment is necessary or figure out how we can do it with off-the-shelf equipment. And then, we'll be able to move into hybrid meetings where those who want to show up can show up, hopefully by August or September. That was my thought.
And at least even if the trustees decided to meet in person, that would at least allow other participants from the town who want to attend the meetings to do so without leaving their house.
Exactly.
Rob, it's one of the reasons why we are looking at the OWL so that we can go hybrid with you. And for any of the other boards that meet at the library, allowing them to be hybrid. We're not too sure if it's going to work for the full room, and we'll be investigating what we need to do to have our full program space be usable. At the moment, the only way it can happen is if cable decides to come and record something, which is fine and dandy. We're one of 2 locations in the town that has the ability to do recordings, which is great for us, but it doesn't help us because we can't play on that side of the aisle, so to speak, with their equipment to use it for ourselves. So we are looking at that.
I think that I remember reading someplace that if you do a hybrid meeting, you need to have a majority of your board in person.
And the ability to be able to see the participants on the Zoom, which we can do because we'll be able to throw up the screen of whoever is doing the recording up on the screen in the back of the community room, so everyone can see who is participating online, and they'll be able to see who is participating with us if we decide to go with the OWL, because that will show them.
And Kay, you'd raise your hand?
Just so I'm clear, is OWL, is that the technology, that's all we need to be able to do these hybrid meetings?
For your board meetings, we think it should work. We've seen a good demonstration of it in the discussion that they hosted about it, and it seemed to do the job for the small groups. I have a friend who is in the business, so to speak, because we were looking at it for another organization. And he said it works fine for board meetings, especially if they are within a certain distance of the item, but it does not work well other than that. So board meetings definitely will be able to take advantage of the technology with this device.
And just to finish, in my conversation with Dan Matthews, he sounded like the select board was going to go with all select board members have to be in the room. Anybody who's going to speak at the meeting has to be in the room in person, but people, passive viewers will be able, that's the goal, is passive viewers might be able to watch from home.
Is that a policy or a legal requirement?
My guess is it's policy for them.
I think that would be the select board. That sounds like the direction they're going.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that applies to us or not.
I don't think so. I think you can make up your own rules.
My understanding is that public participation is encouraged. It's not an open meeting law requirement. but we certainly encourage it at our meetings, whether they're in person or on Zoom. Anna?
Yeah, the select board has a more structured setup. They have scheduled public hearings, so their setup may be different from ours.
Right. And Carol, you had
I was just going to add to Ann's point about having to have a quorum in person. That, as I recall, is a part of the open meeting law pre-COVID. That's the standing law, if we go back to that without an emergency order, that you can have remote access under certain circumstances as a member, a voting member, but you cannot form part of the quorum. So if you were short on people in person, you wouldn't have a meeting because you wouldn't have the quorum.
Yeah.
So you know, at the moment, the community room is full of furniture. And this building is not open on Tuesday nights this summer. So consequently, I'm not too sure where you could host this in-house and still be able to meet open meeting regulations.
Would anybody be opposed to continuing over Zoom for July and August? Or should we just go ahead and I don't think we need to take a formal vote, but just to plan ahead.
I'm not opposed, but I think if given a choice, I would go back to meeting in person.
Okay.
It's until something happens in the legislature, it's not clear that that's an option
Right.
yet, but something will happen with the what's pending.
And I don't know how soon the owl will be in, but it's possible if you're having meetings in person over the summer. I'm not sure if people have summer vacation plans where they may be away.
Right. Right. I mean, to some extent, we'll have to see. We'll have to see if this bill passes. I'm assuming that this bill is going to pass in the next week or two, and that we'll be permitted to remain fully remote if we want to over the summer. But Kay mentioned that your preference would be in person, Anna.
So do we know if we resume to go back into in-person meetings, could we still record those for the benefit of the public, or do we just completely stop recording?
We would need certain equipment to record those.
And that's where the owl comes in.
Yes.
Right.
We could, or we could sit around the table with our computers and have a Zoom call.
We could do that.
Okay. Yeah, I see the value of us as a board to meet in person and, reconnect, but I also don't want to leave out the community connections that we have been building, not perhaps reactively, but still very importantly so. So I'm torn.
I think just personally, it might make sense to keep remote for July and August for the reasons that everybody mentioned so far. Not all of us may be able to be there in person. Some folks may be on vacation. I think that our best shot at getting a quorum for those 2 months is to stay on Zoom.
That's fine with me.
With the goal, I mean, and this may not be possible too, but assuming that legislation passes, and then hopefully by September, it sounds like there's already people who are sponsoring bills that will allow hybrid meetings that are primarily in person starting, hopefully in September, and we'll have the equipment to do that by then, if not sooner. I mean, if we can do a hybrid meeting in August, then, we can certainly do that, but that's just a function of how quickly we can get that equipment purchased and up and running.
And one more thing, Kate and Dave will be coming to your July 13th meeting somehow, whether it's in person or
They can teleport.
via Zoom.
Okay, and I mean, it's worked fine in the past when they came last summer. It worked okay on Zoom, and but they will be here for next month. Okay, well, I think we can move on then. And there was a list of gifts to accept.
Yes, would someone make a motion to accept the gift list that's presented in my report?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All right, I'll run through the names. Jay,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
Kay,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Great, so we can move on to building and,
Can I just
oh,
want to ask, should we just discuss the go see Davidoff question of that gift that he's, I mean, do you want to discuss that as part of the gift list, or do we want to discuss that later?
I think we could really discuss it at either, we're going to be discussing the Art and Exhibits Committee. Do you think, would it sort of
That's fine.
kind of go with that?
Okay.
I would just,
Definitely. Oh, sorry.
yeah,
Rick.
just to Ian's note, just a shout out. I don't know if you noticed, there was a comment that, Erin was having, because of COVID, because of the, not having ability to meet in the library, that the numbers were down. But if you look at her programs in terms of number of attendees, so it's just a shout out to Erin in terms of 23, 20, 34, 15, so she's gotten some traction there. So that's good work.
That's awesome. Okay, well, we will move on to the next item in the agenda then, which is building and grounds. Anne, is there anything to report there?
Just a big thank you to the crew, Angel and Mario, Jeff and Jader, for moving furniture one way and then having to move it another way because everything loosened up. So fortunately, we didn't move the chairs too far away from the table. They were just under the table. But those are heavy chairs too. So I appreciate their work.
A huge thanks to everybody. I've only been to the library once since it reopened, but it was fantastic being back in the building. And it's really nice that everything, it looked like a library again. Not everything had to be shut down. We didn't all have to be super spaced out. It was fantastic being back. Carol, did you have your hand raised?
Oh, I was just going to say, I see from Angel's report that the third floor is now closed off from when you go up by the #1 elevator, which has been very long in coming. So that's quite an achievement. I guess you can still walk up the stairs because that part of the
Yes, you can. That's
work order hasn't been completed, but this elevator having a code is clearing up a very old work order.
One thing actually that jogged my memory a bit, with everything that happened yesterday with the scare, one thing that really brings to the forefront is security cameras. I know that this is something that's come up in the past, but has there been any movement, or is that something that we should plan on allocating some funds for?
So if Danielle were here, she would tell you that she contacted the company today and was trying to get them to come out, and they were about to give us a quote just before COVID, but before we shut down. So we're trying to reestablish a timeline for them to come back out and do that. So sorry, Ann, I didn't mean to jump in there, but had Danielle been here, she would have said that, but yeah.
I mean, that really highlights the need for them more than anything else. So, okay, thanks for the update on that, Dimitri. Anything else on building and grounds? Okay. In that case, financial reports, I'll turn that over to Ann.
Okay, you have the state aid and the trust fund report and the budget report. They all look pretty good, especially the budget report. I want you to know that we're almost right on target for the books and periodicals budget. And there's some other expenses that will be made in the expense column, which will bring the amounts spent down, or up actually, the balance is down. So I think we're moving right along.
That's great.
Does anybody have questions?
I do. And I see that we're overspent on the Canopy movie database and the state aid. account, do we need to vote something, or how do we handle that? Anything need to be done, or
You
just,
can if you want to. Other than that,
I mean,
I would just keep spending it.
I assume it'll still go more negative until before
Right,
the
right.
end of the
You have one more payment to make.
fiscal year. So I don't know. I'm wholeheartedly in support of, making that available. So I don't know if we need a motion or just a consensus on it, but.
And Jay?
Yeah, I just have a general question on the financial reports, something that came up, I'm not sure, a month or two ago, but my sense is that in connection with the transition, am I correct in understanding that all of the library's financial records on reports are kept only on hard copies and are not on the computer? I'm just looking ahead on the transition. Are we set up so that all of the financial records and reports going forward would be managed on the computer? If you can sort of fill me in, Ann, because I know at one point it was all sort of physical copies, and I'm not sure if that's something to be considered as we move forward. So that was a question.
Well, to start with, all the physical copies that you get are from my computer. They are updated every month. I have Jenna, wonderful Jenna. I'm working with her on trust funds, so she will understand what happens with them. She's looking into a program that would keep track of expenses online rather than just in my
So
book.
maybe I'm confused, and Dimitri, maybe you can refresh my memory, because I remember the conversation happened sort of in passing, where I had a sense that all of the financial information was not as easily accessible online as compared to mostly, needing to look it up to find physical copies. Was that a misunderstanding on my part?
I think, it's on Ann's computer, and I think, Ann, you have everything in binders in terms of other, trust funds and things like that.
All
That's
the-
what we're working on, Jenna.
All the budget expenses are all online because we are part of the town's system.
Okay, good.
The
Okay.
trust funds, the balances are online, but the setup for each fund is a separate page in a trust fund book. And Jenna's looking at that to see how easily she could put that in on a computer and have it transferred automatically to the page that I enter the numbers on.
Yeah, okay.
Anna?
When you say it's in the computer, is it in your hard drive in your computer, or is it on the cloud? So, and is there a backup to those files? Not
Files all our files are backed up almost immediately.
Everything
but
gets,
is it in your hard drive? Yeah, go ahead.
everything gets backed up each night to the server
Okay,
from all computers, so we
got
have it.
okay.
We
All
do,
right.
and unfortunately Danielle isn't here, but yes, everything is backed up on our, we have a server
Wonderful.
that backs everything up.
And Carol, going back to what you were discussing, did you want to put forward a motion regarding Canopy? Oh, sorry,
I would be happy to. I put on the floor a motion to exceed our state aid budget up to, say, $1,000 for the remaining part of the fiscal year to, to bring that up to sort of top that account up, so to speak, so that we continue to provide the service.
Okay. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay. I'll run through the names then. Jay?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Thanks, Carol. Did we have anything else in the financial report to discuss? Great. In that case, why don't we turn to the statistical report? And thanks for sending that around. It looks like obviously April of 2020 was a very slow month. The library wasn't open. Curbside hadn't started up yet, but we've got some pretty good numbers for 2021.
It's really weird to be comparing months because the months are so different.
Mhm.
Apples and oranges.
Right, right.
I was still very surprised that the electronic circulation numbers for both years was the same. I would have expected that they would have increased substantially.
Well, the flat number percentage-wise increased because there weren't any books going out, but the flat number was pretty close, wasn't it?
It's really interesting to see the website numbers because April 2020 was, it was shut down. I guess people probably weren't looking the library up as much because it was closed, but that's just a huge increase in website hits.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it'll be more.
I think-
Yes,
Yep.
that would.
I suspect it will.
Yeah.
I certainly hope so.
They'll be in for a happy surprise, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah. Anything else for the statistical report?
I was just going to say ironic that the town is now realizing that they need to improve their website
Oh, yeah.
for the town. They're going through a huge process. Cindy Roy Gonzalez is starting several, programs to explore that with the community to see what everyone thinks. But
Getting the ball rolling.
yeah,
The
anyway.
library leads the way in thinking.
Well, that was what Dave Davison said. One of the drawbacks to allowing us to have our own is that other departments are going to want a better one as well. So there we are.
Yep.
Rising above mediocrity.
Yeah.
Trailblazers.
Put that on our shield.
We have a new motto, Rick.
Emboss that somewhere. So we'll move on to new business. And Anne, in your director's report, you'd included an item about Sunday hours.
Right, right. When we started Sunday hours, we were open 3 hours. It was a very busy 3 hours, 2 to 5. So the staff actually asked to be open another hour. So we went 1 to 5. So we spread the business over 4 hours. And then, as I stated in my report, that someone said we should be open till 7 o'clock, so people could come who leave work if kids have to go to school and they haven't had a chance to get to the library. Now they do. But then the statistics, I have a book this fat on statistics for Sundays. So I tried to get the last normal year, which was 2020 in January. And my little chart shows how many people came hour by hour on Sundays. And I was blown away by January 26th. I said, oh, somebody must have had a program that day. And I looked and I couldn't find that anybody had a program. Just that many people came to the library that day.
No football.
That wasn't the Eric Jackson talk, I don't think. I can't remember.
No, nothing was that day. No Friends program and no Foundation program either.
I think the point was that there was no football.
Right.
I think Gay's got a good point there. Because that was the interim one between
the
Right.
Super Bowl.
the
Okay.
week before the Super Bowl, yeah.
Actually, that was book sale weekend, guys.
Oh, it was book sale even, okay.
Book sale weekend. That explains it.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
So
Well, anyway, I think that my figures do show that hour from 6 to 7 is not used an awful lot.
Well,
Tom?
well, the thing is, that's people entering at that time. If people could still be there. I mean, this is just entering, I mean, a lot of people come to the library, come for more than 10 minutes or an hour. So
Actually, Tom, the reference staff for that last year was going around during those last 2 hours and counting actual number of people who are actually in the building. And the numbers do reflect that. There weren't that many people here.
So one question for Ann and Dimitri, looking at these numbers, and thank you for breaking these down. It's great to have these numbers. It really informs our discussion. The peak is really between 1 and 3, maybe 1 and 4. Would it be possible to open a bit earlier instead of stay open later, like open from 12 to 6 instead of
No.
1 to 7?
The church is still in attendance at that point in time, so we wouldn't have that parking lot. We don't have our own parking lot. So
Okay.
What are you recommending, Ann?
I'm recommending that you close at 6 o'clock, hours 1 to 6, 5 hours.
And one thing just to add, and I know a lot of library staff are on this meeting tonight, many of them would love to be able to go home and have dinner with their families a little earlier, because by the time they get out at 7, and many of them don't live here in Needham, and of course they've all pointed out just what Ann was pointing out, that there aren't that many people between 6 and 7 in there.
When you say earlier, you don't mean earlier than, you mean earlier than 6, or do you mean?
No, I mean 6. I mean 6.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, along with the numbers that Ann is citing, many of them would be extremely grateful if you folks considered closing at 6, because that would allow them to get home. And home isn't in Needham, remember. All of our folks who work on Sunday are typically scattered all over the place. So if we considered, and again, we're not saying if our numbers are high, but our numbers are not that high for 6 to 7 o'clock. So that was a plea they wanted me to make sure that I put it out there, that you're aware of that. And I didn't mean.
I propose the Sunday hours end at 6.
I second it.
Right, we've got a motion on the floor. I'll run through the roll call.
No, it's should be some discussion.
Sure, we can open it back up to discussion as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see the statistics for the people present in here. I don't, I trust you, but I'd like to see them. I got no problem with the situation, but then again, if it's based upon statistics, if people have left at 6, that's fine. Now they have to.
But Gay, you're suggesting that these numbers reflect what were the numbers as shown in an actual count of people there at the time, right? These are consistent with those numbers. Deb?
That's correct, and they were counted on both the first and the second floor, and I believe those numbers that you see are the totality. Counted on the first floor by circulation and second floor by reference. If I could just add quickly one pitch to add to Dimitri's comment. The staff really described this as a major, having experienced it for a couple of years, a major really detraction from their personal lives. Not detraction, that's not the right word, but really their personal lives are suffering, honestly. Not able to have Sunday dinner with family, not able to get that feeling of starting the week off right, with some time at home on Sunday evening. It really is a major impact on their family lives. So I second Dimitri's comment.
Any more discussion on that? Okay, then we can move to a vote. I'll run through the names quickly. Jay?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So that is approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thanks again for breaking down the numbers. That was very helpful. So moving on to old business, the first item is the website. Dimitri, could you give us an update on that?
Sure. So we're in the last week of what Sterling Brandworks is calling the revision period. All of us on their staff, we all have a piece of the website. We're all making sure that they've migrated the things that we want and need. If we want them to make any changes that Sterling needs to make, we need to notify them of this week. We're all working on that. Danielle and I have been on top of staff, and we know we have till midnight this Friday, because otherwise it costs more money. So it has to happen by midnight this Friday. So everybody's been pretty diligent on that. I'm confident we'll be finished with that. Everybody understands that once that's happened, we can all change text, add things, do however we need to manipulate it once we start getting trained up on it with Sterling. But that's going well. I did have one other thing to bring up that Sterling kind of hit us with, and I talked with Ann about this. So we need to have the website hosted. We're not going to have it on the town anymore.
Right.
The hosting itself is going to cost $480 a year, but there's also a support plan, which is $4,900. Now, I've read through that. It seems I have to consider it a little more and look compared with what they're already offering us. But Ann, I was going to ask you, how much of the money have we spent? How much will we have between the money from the Friends and the Foundation? Will there be like 2,000 or 3,000 left, I believe?
I
I'm
think that-
sorry, Dimitri, but is that
Yes.
is that support for the hosting separate from the support plan that we had previously had a conversation with them about for the website? Is that the same plan or is that something different?
I'm going to clarify that with him because initially I thought it was just for the website, for the hosting, but it's not entirely clear to me. So I'm going to.
Because we had an understanding, Rob, remember, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was with an expectation of there being, I forget the dollar amount specifically, but we had understood it and the foundation and the Friends, I think, had generously agreed to continue to share those costs.
Right. And I think, we discussed it at different rates. We know what peer towns are paying. It's usually a bit less than that. I strongly suspect that what that fee is the website support fee, because hosting itself doesn't really, other than what you're paying the provider, it doesn't really take anything.
It is support, and it has how many 35-hour-long session. It's very detailed in terms of the things we can do over the course of a year. So I would say that we should probably go ahead and do it. I've talked with Ann. Ann said we could probably supplement to pay for it from, Ann, did you say the Hatch plan? Maybe we could use some money from there?
Probably the Hatch fund.
Yeah.
There's money for it in the trust funds.
If I may suggest, I think we could probably negotiate that because again, we know what the peer communities that use Sterling are paying for it from our outreach. And, I think 2,500 to 3,000 is probably closer to what many of them are paying right now.
They won't go down that low, but we'll get them to reduce their fee.
There's some wiggle room.
Yeah.
How would you like me to initiate that? Can we talk separately tomorrow about that offline, and maybe one of you can, I can talk to them, you can contact them, we can sort that out tomorrow.
I'd be happy to discuss that.
All right, go ahead.
I should mention also for your reference, you should be aware that I was on a Zoom call last Friday with a couple of the Sterling folks in connection with the Friends who have their own website, which could benefit from a refresh to coincide with the library's new website. And so we started a conversation with Sterling folks without, getting overly ambitious, but how to take advantage of what they're doing for the library to have a more attractive, Friends website. And I use as a comparison, the Library Foundation website, which I think, is a more, more attractive website. So, but in any event, but there's good content on the Friends. And so there's a conversation going forward, just for your reference, about updating that along the way. Certainly not by the time the library website is introduced.
So Rob and Jay, can I send you both this document that has the breakdown, and you can take a look at it, and then we can consider from there.
Sure.
I do want to tie up the hosting because obviously we want them to host it, but we can.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and figure out the domain name too.
Actually, we have a domain.
Yeah.
Great.
The Friends own needhamlibrary.org, and they are happy to transfer it over to us.
Yeah.
And so we had a couple hands up, so I'll go with Anna first and then Kay after that. And Anna, you're on mute right now.
Thank you. In terms of hosting, that generally is done by a third party. The website developers or consultants, they usually don't host. That's a whole other. So I would ask them for recommendations. There are many out there, but I would ask them for recommendations of a couple to see, because generally website developers have a preferred, whether it's Bluehost or this and the other. There are different types. So, and the support may be also for hosting, because sometimes hosting could get clunky and you may have to troubleshoot. So there may be a separate line item for support, which is probably minimal, under hosting. So just let's clarify that as well.
Okay, and Kay?
Yeah, that was very good point, Anna. And also just to make a point in terms of negotiating with them, if the Friends are possibly going to go with Sterling for help and pay the money, and the town is now possibly moving toward, all of this gives us some negotiating power to, help them keep their prices low because there's future business potentially coming down the.
That's what I figured.
And one question, I guess for Kay and Dimitri, for our photographer, Brian, is everything all set for him to come by?
He's coming tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Kay, we'll both be there with Brian. I think the
Yes.
money for that is from the Hatch Fund. That's all been agreed upon, right?
Yes.
And yeah, that's happening tomorrow morning. I've alerted the staff that if they don't want to be in a photo, they don't have to. Kay, I think you made some other arrangements, right, for Anna's son or another teenager?
Yes, Anna, your son is coming around noon tomorrow? Yes?
Yeah, maybe a little bit later, but I'll email you.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yep.
And yes, I have we're striving for some diversity. I have a family that lives across the street from me who's agreed to, the mother and child are a Muslim family in town who are coming in to participate in a photo in the children's room. And I also had Sterling, I asked them for a shot list so that we made sure we got all the shots that are going to be needed to fill the various spots on all the website pages. So I have the shot list, given that to Brian. So we're set up for tomorrow morning. And Dimitri, nice enough, offered to come in at 7 a.m. So we're all going to be there bright and early.
Well,
oh, and the staff photo, I presume the whole staff is not going to be there Monday, on a Wednesday morning. So, or are they?
Well, a lot will be there. We're not opening Wednesday evening, so most people, nobody is on vacation that I know of, unless somebody has like a doctor's appointment or something. But a lot of people will be there tomorrow.
Okay, so you guys might want to figure out a time when the staff can all kind of line up, group together at the bottom of the steps or someplace like that, for a full staff photo.
Okay, so just so you're aware too, and Kay, I think I mentioned this to you before, we have an all staff meeting at 2:30 through Zoom, and a leadership meeting at 3:30. So we'll try to do that maybe in the first half of the day.
Yeah, all right.
We'll work that out, but we'll work that out in the morning. So
okay.
And Dimitri, do you know, does Sterling need those pictures by Friday, or are they okay incorporating them into the site after Friday when the period ends?
That I don't know. I can ask about that. They didn't mention anything about that right now. The only thing is they didn't say anything about the photo, so I can check on that. I'll check.
When they were talking about their own photographer,
I
recall that it was later in the month. They were okay with that.
I don't think so. I think we're okay. That's not part of the revision period.
Okay. Kay?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And a huge thanks to Kay for coordinating with Brian, and for Dimitri as well for coordinating and going in super early tomorrow. These photos are going to be great. They'll really, I think, spice up the new website, and they'll also be great to have for all of our publicity materials going forward. Our Facebook site, newsletters, they're really going to be an asset to the library.
Thank you all for all your work.
Oh, thanks to all of you for making it happen at the library. It's exciting, and by our next meeting, we're going to see the final result. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, that is.
So I'll move on under old business to the reopening plan, so we can hear how that's been going.
It's been going wonderfully. We made all our plans, and then the governor came along and shot holes in all our plans. We could just throw everything away and act normally.
I will share.
Not normal from something. I have a wonderful quote from Jeffrey Beckwith, who's the executive director of the Mass Municipal Association. He says, "We're not going back to yesterday's normal. We're jumping ahead to a new normal, and that won't be like flipping an on switch. It will be a process with phases and stages, starts and stops, and twists and turns. I think that summarizes pretty much what's happening. It used to be called rolling with the punches, I think.
And I have a little anecdote to share with all of you. You know, for a while we were hearing Wellesley is open. Why aren't you open? You know, so a colleague I used to work with in Natick, she sent me an email the other day, Saturday actually, because she happened to be working too, and she said, "So what are you doing over there in Needham?" Two people came in, one in the morning, a lady, and said, "Why aren't you open? Needham's all the way open. How come I have to get off the computer?" You know. And then in the afternoon, they had a gentleman who came in, and he said the same thing. So she was compelled to email me. She goes, "Are you working? Yeah, why?" I go, "Well, you know, we're not. No, I guess." And I thought secretly to myself, of course, this isn't secret where I'm saying it here. It's nice to hear it the opposite way. so, so that's a nice comparison. They're comparing to Needham rather than to Wellesley.
I haven't heard complaints. I've heard people say, gee, I really liked curbside service. Too bad we can't keep doing that too, but we can't. But
Yeah.
people are happy to come in and see us, and they're telling us how happy they are.
I'm glad that it's been sort of, you know, it's been a natural process where, you know, I'm glad that we haven't had to resort to counting people. It sounds like there hasn't really been a concern based on the numbers that we've seen so far. People are kind of self-regulating.
I will say, I think, you know, the public has been very respectful. You know, some people wear masks, some don't, but everybody's been really, really good, and it's been pretty smooth.
And they've been very good about wearing masks in the children's room.
Yeah, they have, yeah.
And
Very glad to hear that.
I'll say again what I sent in my email, which it was such a great pleasure to actually go to the library again. It just looked beautiful, you know, and we'll be happy to see more people there. But for now, it felt like I had the toy store mostly to myself, walking around the stacks. Everything was in such great shape. So thanks again for all the work that's been done, you know, while we were away to make it look so good when we returned.
Bravo.
Yes. That's a huge amount of work.
Have a good group of people working and working very hard sometimes, most of the time. And I'm grateful for every one of them. And the new people are working out fine. Am I correct on that? Yes.
They're great. They're great.
That's good to hear. Okay, well, I think that covers it for the reopening plan. For now, we already discussed Sunday hours, which is a little bit related to that. Under old business, the equity inclusion resolution, do we have any updates this month for that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Do you want me to talk about the group, the people that wanted to celebrate Juneteenth? Anna recommended that they connect with me, and they did, and we had I had a very nice conversation with the lady in charge, and only to find out that she's most grateful for anything that anybody does for her. And so she was grateful for what we did. We put a notice on our Facebook slot on the Facebook. Just leave it at that. And we also put a book display up. She had suggested some titles, and we gathered those titles together and put a nice little display up near the front desk. And I put a poster up on the bulletin board, and she seemed quite happy with what we did for her.
Yeah, that's the Needham Human Rights Committee. They have a new leader, Tina Burgos, and she is, they started their, they want to reconnect with the community. So Juneteenth was their first initiative. And they're actually doing, if you go to their website, their Facebook page, they have from June 1st to June 19th, they have one daily activity, or you can do a reading, an article, a video, so that the community learns jointly about Juneteenth. And the library was able to help with providing some resources. So thank you, Anne.
Thank you, everybody. They all worked on it too.
Yes, thank you. So we'll move on to the strategic plan. You'll notice in the agenda, at first, when the agenda was being prepared, we weren't quite sure who was up this month. And I think, the answer is that we don't have anybody providing a progress report at this meeting. And I was actually trying to go back through my own files to see what we'd planned on for months for each of the reports, but I couldn't find it anywhere, and it's possible that we just didn't assign months. So this might be a good time just to go through and discuss who has each section of the strategic plan to update, and when we'll be providing those updates. I know that Kay has already provided her update on programs and services. I've done mine on technology, so that leaves 4 others.
I have not done collections yet.
Okay. Tom, would you be open to doing collections at some point over the summer?
I'll give it a try. Yeah. Why not?
Sorry, I just couldn't hear you there.
Yeah, sure. Yes, I will.
Okay. Do you want to say maybe for the July meeting? Would that be enough time, or should we push it to August?
August would be better, yeah.
August, okay.
We're gonna have Kate next month, and it's gonna be.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good point, Rick. That will, that will eat up a decent part of that meeting. I believe, Anna, you've got community engagement and partnerships. What would be a good month? Do you think, would it be reasonable to do it in July, or do you want to wait until September or October? I'm sorry, you're on mute right now.
Hold on. Are we skipping July because of Kate and Dave?
Yeah, I mean, if you think it's a relatively quick report, then we could certainly fit it in. If not, we could wait until September.
I remember, I have to look at my notes, but I remember that it has not even been a year since I reported. So it may be a short report. If I can do it in July. There may be maybe like a 6-month worth of updates there.
Okay.
So I can do it in July.
Okay, that sounds good.
But I guess if time permits, if Kate and Dave are coming, I'm not certain. What are we skipping the month, or are we?
I mean, in the past, when Kate and Dave have joined, I feel like it's usually 45 minutes to an hour. I want to say that they're joining the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves a certain amount. I guess we will have some other sort of meaty issues to discuss at the meeting. If you want to wait until September and have more of an update, that's fine.
That'll be fine. Okay, September it is.
Okay. Carol, I've got you for facilities. And you're on mute right now. Any month in the fall good for you?
I would say October is fine. This is a final report on the 5-year strategic plan. So at least technically it would run reporting on just through June 30 of this year. When we started doing these a few years ago, reporting, doing an annual sort of progress report, we were trying to accomplish it right near the end of the fiscal year, and it really was kind of too soon sometimes to know everything. It was just too quick, and everybody couldn't give. And so that's why when we started doing these interim reports, which are, really have, balanced out our meetings in time a little bit better. And, it has been, I think it's worked out as a good plan, but I don't think we really have to, rush. But I think, if we can get a final report together, which would sort of be a compilation of what's happened over 5 years as a sort of final report on the plan, that would be great. So, and when are you going to report? I didn't quite understand. Did you want to report in July, or did you prefer to wait till?
Well, I'm going to do it September, just because Kate and Dave may take up,
Okay, so
and then
you're not
there's a
able-
website. There's a website to discuss and so on.
So put me down for
September.
October then, Rob, that will be fine.
Okay. And Rick, for staff, would you be okay with November?
Yeah, it seems like I just did it when I did it, but it could have been like a year ago. Who knows?
I thought you did do it, Rick, more recently, just with a couple of months ago, maybe.
Yeah,
You did, yeah.
I'm actually trying to look it up.
I
Okay.
think you did do it.
Time and COVID goes by so.
I think,
quickly.
Yeah,
I think
hey,
we
you
did
did
it
yours
right.
last month, right?
Yeah.
Rick, let me know. And my apologies, because
Yeah.
my sense of time is also probably distorted. But
Rick, it was memorable.
yeah.
I remember.
I remember it.
Well, we'll in case it wasn't as recent as it seems, I'll pencil it in for November, but otherwise we'll be all set there.
We checked the minutes.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going back. I went back through February, but maybe it was January. But I'll check on that. So moving down, the roadmap for achieving strategic actions and staffing, I don't believe there's really been any movement on that, because that's something that we'll be doing in conjunction with a new director at some point in the future. Is there any update on marketing and outreach? Anna?
Oh, no, go ahead, Carol. It seems like you have.
I was just going to mention, I exchange that Dimitri and I had, because in the, let me remind myself, in a report from whom was it, the Dimitri, about the new Chromebooks that are being given to members of the community that don't have one and aren't online. Anyway, there's a program that's not offered through the library, but people are learning to use Chromebooks. They're getting a Chromebook, and somebody maybe from the senior center is, setting them up. And there seemed like a good opportunity to make sure that they have an icon on their desktop for the library and the Minuteman, so that they take advantage of services that we have that they may not be using because they've never been online, don't have access.
And I'll get in touch with once we have the web set up and going.
Yeah, so that seemed like a good opportunity for outreach, even though it's in the future. Wait till we have our website.
Not too far in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anna?
Yeah, under outreach, I republished the library's Facebook post about the opening into the Needham Facebook page. I think Rick used to do this. Now I'm kind of doing it. And we had about 60, likes and several comments, and mostly, I think all of them are very positive comments. So people are excited, and they still keep liking it, even though this was like last week. So people are really, again, to echo Anne's comments earlier, there is everybody's excited. There's a sense of excitement about the opening. So this looks good.
That's great. Yeah, personally, when I've spoken with folks about reopening, there's a lot of positive buzz, and it's great that we're able to do it under the conditions that we've done it, where people don't feel too constrained about going in and spending time and browsing. It's fantastic. So move down under old business. I don't believe there's any update about a new strategic plan, as that is also something that we will be picking back up in the future with a new director, which brings us to the next item on the agenda, the process of selecting a successor director. So I can give a brief update on that. Kay and I spoke with Kate Fitzpatrick and Dave Davison a few weeks ago in late May, mid to late May. There were a few different items that we discussed. I think that, the biggest item is, what the process is going to look like and what the timeline is going to look like. What we're hearing from them is that, and they've done this recently with other director level positions, they will create a committee that will handle a lot of the process. What we're planning on for that committee is for Kay and myself to join it from the trustees, and from the town, Kate, Dave, and Katie King will join that. And then presumably there will be input from library staff as well on that committee. And that sort of smaller group of people will be involved in all steps of the process. The first step, of course, is getting the job description revised and out there, which we'll discuss in a moment, and getting that out there on a wide range of different websites and other platforms to make sure that this reaches as many folks as possible. It's something that Kay and I discussed with them, and they assured us that there are websites to ensure that this reaches a diverse audience, and the word gets out to a wider geographical range as well, because a lot more people are considering relocating than in the past. So, we really want to get the word out there and get as big of a pool as possible for this position. In terms of timing, I think the plan is to get the job posting up as soon as possible. I don't think that we put an exact date on that, but I would expect in the next couple of weeks we would get a job posting up there. There would be 2 rounds of interviews. Each of those would be team interviews with some folks joining and leaving the meeting. And then presumably once there are a couple of finalists, that's when we would get those candidates in front of all of the trustees, whether or not it's actually at a formal meeting, and we have to be conscientious of open meeting requirements for that. So that's the overall process. In terms of timing, the initial timing that had been discussed was being able to extend an offer by October 1st with a target start date of November 1st. So those are the broad strokes. Obviously, there's a lot of details, and we can open it up to discussion now to go over that. But I just wanted to relay what I had in my notes from that meeting. Jay, you had your hand up?
Yes, so I just wanted to raise the question about the participation of an outside consultant. I had mentioned previously in connection with the development of a new strategic plan that Dimitri and I met with 2 specialists in the field, a woman named Maxine Bleiweiss and a more local guy named Chuck Flaherty. And the conversations with them in the strategic plan, touched as well on, the issues that might be involved with the selection of a new director. And they both had lots of thoughts about that. And my impression from talking with them is that it might be just as valuable to have a consultant participate in the process for guiding us on the selection of a new director, as perhaps even more important than the development of a hypothetical strategic plan. And I had mentioned that. And if they were to be involved, and I was impressed by both of them. I imagine that there are others out there. But that they could be helpful not only in terms of helping us manage or navigate the process most effectively, but they also might have connections in terms of possible people who might be interested in the position. But the thought I have for now, though, is that and I thought there was a consensus about maybe going in that direction, or at least exploring what the cost would be. But my view is that if we are going to do that, we should do it at the beginning of the process, and not somebody who should be involved in the review of the job description. And one of the things I remember from my conversation with Chuck Flaherty is he emphasized how important it was to choose the committee who will be involved in this process. And he recommended strongly that we have people from various parts of the community. And so I don't think we should just be rushing forward quickly with this committee of 5 or so people that have been designated. I think this should be part of a thoughtful, concerted effort with the guidance of an expert. We can explore to see what role they would play. And those are my thoughts about this.
Can I mention?
Rick? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Kay.
Sorry,
Okay.
I just wanted to, in response to what Jay was saying, as Rob said, we did bring up the issue of working with a consultant. It seemed to me with Kate and David, and the sense from them was that they're fine with us working with a consultant, they did not seem to want an outside consultant to be part of the town HR process of selection. So they basically said to us, you know, you guys want to seek out advice from a consultant, you know, that's your prerogative as in the trustees. But they did not want to seem to be involved in that. Is that what you're reading, Rob?
Yeah, that was the reading, is that basically, and you know, under the town charter, they run that process, right? It's a town process. We have essentially an up or down vote once a candidate is submitted to us. Obviously, we want input into the whole process, and we will have that. But the message that we got from HR is that they do not allow consultants into the
Right, but
process.
our input in the process can be influenced by our consulting with an expert in the field who advises us we should be doing this, that we would bring to the
Exactly.
table.
And that's their
the town.
response to that was that, you know, providing advice to us is fine, but you know, the consultant wouldn't be reviewing resumes. They wouldn't be conducting interviews or anything like that. And I don't think that's what you had in mind.
I don't think so either. I think an exploratory conversation with those two or any others will help you guys, will guide you in terms of, you know, figuring out how to best take advantage of the services that they could offer. But I feel strongly that if we're going to do that, we should do it at the beginning, you know, as we develop a committee and as we come up with a job description.
Yep. And Rick?
Yeah, and I would agree with Jay. I mean, when you think about the makeup of that group, nobody has library experience. I mean, we're trustees, but we don't have library experience. And that consultant, you know, Chuck or either one has good library experience and can advise. And I like the idea of community involvement. I don't know how much in terms of the process, but to have parts of the community involved in the selection of the library director. I agree, Jay.
Yeah. And one thing I should mention is that we had discussed bringing library staff to be a part of that committee. That was my recollection.
Yes.
Obviously, you know, as you said, Rick, you know, none of us on that committee has library experience at any level, certainly not day-to-day experience. So, you know, that's something that they already seem to be envisioning. They just haven't identified anybody yet. But that makes sense on the consultant point as well. Jay, when you spoke to each of them, did either of them give you an idea of what their fee might be and what their scope is?
It was sort of a side conversation that was led from the strategic plan. So I didn't get into any details. I don't even think at the time, you know, we knew that there would even be for sure a transition, you know, but I think it's that would be conversations I would recommend, you know, that you have, and you can then better assess what might they have to offer and what might it cost us. I think it's, you know, I'm guessing it's a much less time consuming task than what might have been involved with the strategic plan. I think it's really just, you know, helping guide us in the process and offering us the benefit of whatever experience they have from having gone through this, you know, multiple times. Both of them you know, have been library directors, have hired, you know, transitions. And so, and Dimitri, I think you too were impressed by them as being, you know, thoughtful and smart and sophisticated about, you know, this whole experience.
They've been around a very long time. I've seen Maxine in national conferences, which is where I first connected with her. And Chuck is well known in the Minuteman, and Ann can tell you, in the Minuteman Library Network, where he was a director at Framingham for 15 years, Brookline for 21 years, and the last since he retired 2014, I think he's been a, you know, fill-in director wherever they've needed a director. So he has a couple of nicknames in the network, but one of them, I think somebody told me, he's fill-in Chuck, you know. And he most recently, I mean, right now he's filling in, I think, in Woburn until the end of June. But yeah, I think either one, you know, be great. But Chuck, more particularly because he's very familiar with our area.
I would recommend speaking to them both at a minimum, and I haven't researched to determine who else, if anyone, might be out there and worth talking to.
Jay, you may have done this already. If you wouldn't mind sending me their contact info,
Sure.
if you have their phone numbers, I'd be happy to reach out to them and just broach the topic. And Kay,
Dimitri, I think you may have more access even
Yeah,
to me quickly to their contact information, if you could forward it to Rob.
That would be great. And, that's something that, that we can do really immediately, because I think, as you've said, as everybody said, their biggest value add is going to be the beginning of this process, because the back end of the process, that's really where this committee is going to be taking over, because those are the subjective determinations that the consultant's not going to be making. They're really consulting on the process itself and what we should be looking for.
Can I ask a question? From what you all said, I assume that town HR process, they're going to involve library staff or some member of library staff.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
we confirmed that.
Okay.
And that's something that we will make sure happens.
Okay.
I think honestly, that's the most valuable. And if you look at MBLC guides to hiring a director or others, they all say that you need staff buy-in at all steps of the process.
And it may well be that Dimitri is the right person to represent the staff in that capacity.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So that's kind of the broad outline of what the process is looking like. I can do the outreach for the consultants and figure out what they're going to cost. But I think we should consider, if we need to act quickly, we might need to do that between now and our next meeting. If we can, it may not be a bad idea to authorize the expenditure of up to a certain amount, whatever we think is reasonable, to hire one of these consultants to provide us with advice on the overall process, so that we've got that authorization on record. So I guess I'll put that motion out there on the floor if we have a second. But I guess, Jay and Dimitri, do you think 5,000? Do you think that would be a reasonable?
I haven't discussed it. I'm sure 5,000 would be sufficient for an initial consultation. I think we may realistically, I say this purely on intuition, be talking about $5,000 to $10,000.
5 to 10. No, 5 to 10.
Like that.
Maxine, I would say closer to 10. Chuck a little, less than that. So because he's local. So, but 5 to 10. I mean,
There's no requirement to go out to for
RFP.
proposal. Us hiring it.
RFP?
Yeah,
I don't know.
If you
$5,000. I think it makes the threshold, doesn't it?
And we can't hear you.
Sorry?
Anne was trying to say something, and I think she just, there she is.
Threshold is 10,000.
10,000. Okay.
I'm sure we can find a number lower than that.
You
Yeah.
probably could.
So I
Another
guess
thing
I-
is that, of course, the Mass Board of Library Commissioners have, can advise us.
That's right.
And they have that, the handbook for hiring a new director, and they're having a thing for our trustees. I think I'm signed up for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Dimitri, when were you signed up for?
I signed up for not the one tomorrow. I did sign up for one. I don't think it's the one tomorrow, but I have signed up for one of them.
And
They
I've
asked
been,
and they asked for any questions that I might want to talk about. So I put down, have some advice for, how it has worked with people with our town charter.
Right.
And I think you guys are handling it very well, because that we're not, you're dealing with Kate and Dave, and it's all up front in here, and they're getting us involved. So I don't think there'll be any issues. So I don't think there's anything really to consider.
Right. The MBLC materials most of them are written assuming that the trustees have control.
Exactly.
Of the process.
Exactly. And we don't do that anymore.
but I went to a prior webinar, and they in fact made very clear that they offer services they have people there who will consult also with you about this process, I think for no fee. And so that might be a conversation also worth having at this initial stage.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll make the motion that we authorize usage of state funds up to $9,999 for the purpose of hiring a consultant to help with the hiring of a director.
All right. Do
I'll
we have a
second that.
Okay, I'll run through the roll call. Jay,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
Kay,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Great. So we've got that authorization. I think that will help us certainly when we talk to these consultants, and we'll report back with any updates. Jay.
One more comment. I don't know if this means, communicating with the town so that they don't expect us to have a marked up description next week. That the plan is that we're consulting to collect our thoughts, and if that means that you got to wait another few weeks or whatever it is, that should be taken into account.
Right. I mean, I think, and I'll ask them what their plan is when they want to get this up. I mean, my feeling is that we're going to need to get the job description finalized sooner rather than later. I think it's a relatively limited window that we have to do that if we want to get an offer out by October 1st, because we've got the multiple rounds of interviews. But I'll explain that we're bringing on a consultant. When I talk to the consultant, I'll mention too
Exactly.
that the first thing we'd like you to do is take a look through this, offer us your high level comments, and go from there. So I'll reach out to Kate and Dave tomorrow and just give them an update on what we're thinking. Kate?
Should I just hold on making any edits to the job description? I mean, I have some input from Carol and Jay and Rick. And also, I looked at it closely myself, and the job description, as Kate and Dave said, they want that to be a very straightforward list of qualifications and skills, and that the marketing material and recruitment material would be the statement about the leadership and vision qualities that we are looking for. So the job description, they want us kind of a straightforward, at least that's what they're hoping to post. Straightforward. Go ahead,
Jay.
I just question whether that's right. I mean, I looked at various other job descriptions, and I'm not sure why we should accept that as and Rick, maybe I'll defer to you a little bit with more background in human resources, but I read other job descriptions and I can't understand why they'd not want to include some of these other, perhaps sometimes called soft skills, enthusiasm, leadership, advocacy that describe most accurately, what the difficult, Ann can say better than anybody, all that's required and how hard the job is. And I just don't see putting it down to some functional list without expressing, more, why we would accept that as being the right strategy.
Yeah, the municipal and state government sort of are maybe 20 to 30 years behind the times. And it's a very structured, they basically have to level the jobs, put them in a hierarchy for pay purposes and a pay structure. And so the job descriptions look like something that was written in the 1950s, maybe the early 60s. And that hasn't really changed. And that's the way it's structured. And so they literally can't change it because, it's governed by, it's a very structured process. So, we would have to, write up the marketing materials because, quite frankly, they're not going to change the job description. It is cast in concrete until they go through another full across town study of all positions. It's just the way it works with government. It's
Ann, did you have something?
Which they just did. You haven't seen the results of it yet. You won't see the results till the 1st of July.
We got a preview.
Got a preview. Okay. Good
Yes.
for you. I
Yeah, we
couldn't get a
have it.
preview.
Anna?
it to us.
Yeah, and I appreciate Jason and Rick's comments about the way that the job descriptions are structured because of the government, the body of the folks, the employer is the government entity, right? So, which to me is striking because there is such a big push now in town for equity and inclusion. And that requires those soft skills. So there's a huge discrepancy, and I don't know if that could be communicated to them, or remind them that there is this. On one hand, we're striving to have leaders in town that are able to work with the times and be reach out to communities and create a foster inclusion and belonging. And how are those leaders? We have to define them. So just wanted to offer that.
Thank you, Anna. Jay?
I would just add, I shared with everyone the email that had the list of some materials I would collect, and maybe just to refer to one thing as a reference would be the job description that Dedham had posted for its library, and I'm sure they got a town government too. And among other things, it had a nice description under what they call knowledge, abilities, and skill, which is something that it seems logical to me to include in a job description, and to push back if the town feels for some reason that that's not appropriate.
So if I can chime in just personally for a moment, I kind of see it from both angles. Obviously, we do need these soft skills in there, and they're really not soft skills, they're essential skills.
Yeah.
I do recognize that the town has a rigid system for doing this. And actually, I think part of that is to avoid bias, because if you can be more objective with criteria, then sometimes these soft skills are the way that bias gets introduced into the process. That's, well, personally, that, I've heard concerns at former employers about that in the past, that if you have, sort of a vague description of something, that can be a way that bias can be introduced into the process. Of course, I'm sure the opposite can be true too. But I think that was the justification for keeping it out of the job descriptions, to have it as standardized as possible. That being said, these really aren't soft skills. These are essential skills for the job. And there might be a way to include them in there. For example, instead of saying that we're just looking for somebody with leadership skills, you might put as one of the job duties, effectively lead library staff, or something along those lines. Or for advocacy, instead of just saying, advocacy skills, say that, under job duties, be an effective advocate for the library and the community. There might be a way to sort of translate these skills into duties, and then also reiterate these soft skills in the recruitment materials, which will be the first thing that these applicants actually see when they click on these job postings. Obviously, we want them to see these as soon as they click on the listing. We really want to get the message across that these are the things that we're looking for. These are the attributes that we're looking for in a new director. But on the flip side, I don't want to get into a fight with the town over something that I don't think will really get a lot of movement on, and potentially slow down the process. So I feel like there's a middle ground there, and we'll certainly, I don't know, I leave it open to discussion, but my thought is to have a list of soft skills that we include in the recruitment materials, get all of our input on that, and if everybody sends everything to Kay and myself, we can sort of synthesize it into a list, and then translate some of those into the job duties that are in the job description, and sort of incorporate them so that they're reflected there as well.
And I will say, of the comments and information that I've received so far, I don't really have anybody nobody has sent us sort of these soft skills, these attributes, these leadership qualities that nobody's done that yet. So let's hear from you. Okay?
I'll refer you to the sample resume, in particular, not resume, but the sample job description for Dedham, or there was a couple
I'll look at that
link, which has all that information, to refer to.
I'll look at that.
Okay.
And Kay, I'll help with that as well. But thank you, Kay, for collecting everything that we've received so far. It's been a lot of responses, and I'm sure there will continue to be a lot. And we'll push to get as much of the soft skills as we can into the job description. I just want to be mindful of at what point, sort of to Rick's point, we might have a limited amount of flexibility on that. So I just don't want to hold up the process if there's another way to make it very clear. And I guess the other piece of it is that obviously we want to attract very qualified, motivated applicants, but as soon as they come in for their first interview, I think it'll be very clear to them what the priorities are as well.
Yeah, because the nature of that job description is just so they can check off the boxes of the candidate to make sure that they meet all the requirements of the job in terms of the duties, responsibilities, and experience and background. It's when you include it in the marketing materials and then the interview, that's what you're going to judge people on. If they've made it through the job description checkoff, then they're quote unquote qualified to be considered. But then you really want to drill in terms of their experience and on the soft side in terms of what their responses are.
Yeah, Anna,
Muted.
oh, you're mute.
One way that we might, to the point of not to get stuck on this, pull and push, is to perhaps stop calling them soft skills, and maybe we want to reframe that conversation, and because then we're kind of siding with them already. But perhaps we want to reframe that conversation and talk about, first acknowledge that the description as stands is operationally heavy. It's heavy on the operation, the day-to-day management. And what we're asking for is to include and be very explicit about the strategic visioning and the leadership, the influencing piece. Okay, so and that is long-term visioning and strategic and influence and versus the operations, and there is a both and, it's not either or. So perhaps the lingo could be something along the lines of strategic planning, visioning, leading, influence. So then we can describe those behaviors and those requirements, whether it's quarterly, and we can talk about that later, but that is how we can reframe the conversation so that it's more palatable to the folks that we need to convince, right? So that's just something I want to offer.
That makes sense to me. I mean, frame it as an action rather than an attribute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it is very true, although, Rob, we did sort of say exactly what Anna just said, and we got the response we got. But I think, we should do it a little more specifically. Give them some actual language that we'd like to see in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just recommend, if you haven't read the that paper, it really addresses some of those things, and just to help you focus in terms of what those attributes are in terms of leadership, direction, strategic thought, influencing, leadership, community engagement, those sorts of things.
Absolutely. And again, if anybody has anything specific that you'd like to see included, whether it's those attributes or the more specific job description, definitely let Kay and me know, and we'll make sure that it goes in there. So for me, I think that wraps it up for the director selection process. Did anyone else have any questions on that? And anything else you'd like to know about where that stands right now? Okay, thanks. Obviously, that's going to be a major task for all of us over the next few months. So we're excited to get it kicked off. And I certainly hope by the next meeting, we'll have quite a few updates on where things stand. So move down to the Library Art and Exhibits Committee report. Kay?
Yep. Yes. So we met yesterday, and the committee's doing a good bit of work to try to recruit artists and try to find a diverse group of people to exhibit. So we have Mark Richards is there now, and Gail has reached out to Beth Hoffler, who will be the next artist, landscape photographer, I believe. Gail,
So, yeah.
and she'll be there in the summer. I just reached out to our Sam Williams, who did his online Black Lives Matter photography show, and we had promised him to do that he could exhibit in person when the library opened. He has just agreed to exhibit his work in September, so he's on board for September. We've done some other reaching out. So for example, we have been trying to do some research on Latino artists. We had contacted Tamara Diaz, who does beautiful work, a Rhode Island Latino artist. But she initially said she was interested, but we're not hearing back from her. Erna Place has been the contact person for Tamara Diaz. And so Erna is gonna reach out to she's part of the Latino artists group of Rhode Island, and so Erna's gonna reach out to them and see if there are other artists that we could work with. Jay, you'll be happy to know we got, I've reached out to the Front Steps group, Carla Solaria, and they are considering whether they would like to exhibit at the library. It's a fair amount of expense for them. And they're not certain that they want to commit to the time and expense of exhibiting, but they're conferring about it.
What sort of expense? Did they give you a sense of how much money they're talking?
The actual amount? I don't know, but I know they have to have the photos have to be printed, and big, so big photo prints, and we need 20, 25 of them. They need to be then somehow matted and framed. So, just to throw out there, it might be a few $1,000s to do something like that. So
depending on the expense, is that something that the library would be interested in supporting or covering? I just get asking out loud, or perhaps the
good
friends.
question. I don't know if there's any precedent for doing that.
As far as I know, there's no precedent for us actually spending money to help an artist exhibit. Usually it's up to them, and they will make back their money by hopefully selling stuff.
And
It might be
increasing exposure.
Yeah.
I wonder if it could be something like a MacGyver, for them to actually tell the story, and then there is a funds there. But I don't know. It's just completely, kind of
To
thinking
have
out loud
like an
there.
event, but even if they spoke, I mean, the fees that we pay people are pretty small.
I don't
Yeah.
know what they're looking for.
$300 or something like that.
Are they looking to sell pphotos in the same way that artists are looking to sell?
Not
paintings?
As far as I
really.
know,
I don't think
not.
that they are. So I
No,
think it's
not
a
really.
bit of a different thing.
No,
So-
but the funds will be to
No,
cover.
I agree.
the-
I'm just saying there's a reason why this is not the same thing as in the
Oh, yeah.
past. We've never paid because they were going to make money based on sale of the art, and that's not what we're looking at here.
They like the idea, but they're not certain that they're wanting to do it. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. And whether there's funding, I don't know. If
Well,
people wanna-
you may want to check with the foundation or the friends also. I'm sorry, Tom, you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Tom,
sorry.
you're muted. You're muted.
Yes, I am.
There we go.
Yeah, and about 10 years ago, there was a program we had, and it was, maybe it's more than 10 years ago, probably 20 years ago, where this organization, I don't know what it was, took pictures of families. And we had a big exhibit and everything like that. And a lot of the Needham families had their pictures taken, and it was a nice thing. But I think they made the money by selling the photos to the families and things like that. So, that was the way and it was in the community room. I think this was previous.
No, no, it was upstairs too. I remember that vividly, and it was about 6 years ago, and we had a little disaster with that one in more ways than one. Let's just say that it was probably one of our uglier exhibits because he insisted on putting everything he had brought up on the wall, and the spacing was hideous. Nobody could see.
But I
anything.
remember going to the community room.
It initially, he had a reception down there before. he
That's where I
moved
was
up.
at. Yeah.
And we had an incident with alcohol that night because he hadn't gotten a permit and he surprised us with it. So we had to shut it down.
I guess I wasn't there. I would have remembered that.
You would have remembered
Yeah, it's
that.
that
I
memorable.
remember it vividly because my father was dying at that point and I had to get called from the nursing home to go deal with it. So yeah,
Okay, won't be repeating that.
no, we're not.
Well, I'll wait to hear what they're saying in terms of. I just reached out to them a few days ago, and they're planning to get back to me, and we can. I suppose if they can't do it or don't, and the reason is money, then I can come back to this group and say, you know, is this something we want to fund?
Yeah.
Does that sound okay?
That sounds good to me.
And just in terms of other work, I don't know, I have been in touch with Leanne Sutton and Natalie Trong about the Asian portraits by Needham High School students. I've tried to circle back with them, but have not got an answer in recent days to see whether that project is moving forward or not. So I'm waiting to hear, and they have not. I haven't gotten any word from them. I also have, in terms of, I'm exploring Native American art. The Fruitlands Museum has an exhibit of a variety of Native American artists right now. So I'm thinking it might be worth going to that exhibit and seeing if there's something there that's appropriate for our big wall. So that's an option. I have Stacy Hamilton, who's a Boston woman's photographer, Black women photographer, Black women of Massachusetts exhibit. And I have reached out to her and she sounds potentially interested. I have to, talk with her again to see when and if she might be able to. So we have a lot of irons in the fire. Oh, yes. And Vicki Garby, the head of the Needham Art Association, president of the Needham Art Association, she is proposing Yutong Huang was awarded the Needham Art Association awarded this young student and okay. So she proposed artwork, exhibit by Yutong Huang, but then she reconsidered and thought that she, a high school student may not have a large enough body of work to actually, that she may be able to do smaller pieces for the case instead of the body, instead of the big wall, since she's probably doesn't have that many big framed pieces. So that's the gallery status of all the different outreach we're doing. And then there is Gotsi Davidoff, who, as you know,
Can I ask you-
Yeah.
Can I
Go
ask you a
ahead.
question before you move on?
Yep.
So are we trying to match the artists to the month? For example, Black History Month
Yeah.
is in January, so that
we
Native
did
American
do
in
that.
December.
It's a little tricky because, for example, Native American Heritage Month is November, but that the Needham Art Association has November and December. So it doesn't, and the artists are not always ready when you want to plug them in. They may not, be ready to do it at that time. So it's a very much of a moving target. We actually hit the nail on the head with Sam Williams and Black History Month, but it doesn't always
Okay.
coordinate quite so well as we would like on that.
I have one question about the Needham Art Association person. Was that the scholarship? Was that the scholarship winner?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I was on the scholarship committee and
Yeah.
she was
Oh,
very.
you were. Do you remember her?
Oh, I do
her being
indeed.
chosen? Did you see her? Did you see her artwork?
She was an almost unanimous choice. Yes, I did.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So Vicki is inquiring with her to see how much work she has available and what size, and to see what we can do with her work. So there's this question of permanent donations. I mean, I don't really know. Does the library accept permanent art donations? Do we want that sort of thing? Gotsi Davidoff is a very sophisticated ceramic sculptor, and he is looking for a home for 3 of his sculptures. What do we do in this case?
Anne, you need to unmute.
We have a policy, section 11, gifts policy. And you should read that before you do anything.
Okay.
You also need to look around the library. There's a lot of different ways of accepting a gift, and there's a lot of restrictions you can put on it. There's a lot you can do. You can say, we'll put this up all the time. It'll be a permanent display. You can also say, we'll put this up when we feel that it's the right time, but do read the gifts policy.
Okay.
You have to look the building over and decide where you would put something and how you would
Right.
display it. So this is a good thing
I was
for
wondering
our
about that,
committee
yeah.
to do.
Right.
So, I mean, for example, these sculptures would need to stand on some kind of platform or pedestal, I guess you would say. We'd need to get one of those white plinths, and they would need to be 2 or 3 places. And if they were going to be on display, even part of the time, right? You know, where would we put that? I just trying to find out if this is something we even want to consider.
There's a lot to discover before saying yes or no.
Just question.
Yep, Jay.
Kay, just out of curiosity, is it an all or nothing? Do we have to accept all 3, or might we decide that, you know, we have a nice place for one?
I don't think we need to accept all 3. We could potentially take one. The only pressure is that he's moving out of the country in about a month. So he wants to know if we would like them, you know, fairly soon. So otherwise he's going to put them in storage and move away.
And you know, I just quickly pasted the section of the gift policy that deals with fine art into the chat function, so you can peruse it at your leisure.
Oh, thank you.
But the long and the short of it is that the trustees essentially have discretion to accept or not accept proposed donations of art. It can be, again, at the trustees' discretion, exhibited permanently or periodically. It can also be disposed of. To the extent that it is disposed of, then the proceeds go to the permanent donation fund or another library trust fund. So based on reading that and not really knowing the history of what we've done in the past, it seems like we can accept it. Ultimately, it's up to the trustees' discretion.
I think we've accepted very few pieces of art over the years. The Pansy pictures that are by the elevator on the 2nd floor is one. We do have 4 paintings that we have accepted over the last 16 years for display. I will say that wall space is getting to be a premium for that kind of artwork, unless we intend to take down something in the business room and put up an original there. And that is definitely
this would not require
and there's
wall
sculpture.
space.
And this is
Yeah.
sculpture. I will tell you that the last time we had a donation like this come through with sculpture, I think you guys turned it down because there was no place to put it.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, that's probably the big question, because it's, you know, it's not everybody's taste, but it is very sophisticated and unusual work. But do we, you know, what would we do with it? So I'd be interested to hear from the library staff or kind of longtime, you know, our trustees. Is this
It
something
does say it can be inside or outside.
Yes, it can be outside. We don't even have any place outside though, do we? Or we could put them, I don't know, somewhere outdoors, I guess.
How tall are they?
By the entrance on Rosemary Street, where there's that little park bench.
Hold on. Give me a moment. Let me see if I can pull it up.
I think it's at 2 feet. 2 feet by
17
Maximum,
by
yeah.
14 by
Say,
9.
Yeah, they're not
17
huge.
inches by 14 inches by
Have you-
9 inches.
Have you seen them in person, Kay? Have you actually seen?
I have seen some of his work in person. I don't think I've seen these particular pieces, but yes. In fact, I've seen him making them at the Gorse Mill Studios. So, you know, they tend to be, you know, that big. They're unusual, you know, they're very abstract. They're ceramic, so they're, you know, you can drop them and break them, but you can't, you know, they won't deteriorate. They don't need to be maintained.
I think the problem is, do they fit with the library?
Yeah. A little dark.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm grappling with. Like, what would we do with them?
Yeah.
So
You know,
maybe when I'm there tomorrow for the photo shoot, I'll walk around and look and see if I can
Yeah,
envision.
good idea.
Right, if there's a space where they could fit, then that's one thing. Although I guess the issue with sculpture as opposed to other types of art is that storage, you know, is more of an issue than something that's flatter. But
So if you like, I can share what the images are.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
One's,
Okay,
one-
so
the
this
last-
this is the first image. This is a collage, 17 by 14 by 19 ceramic glaze with an underglaze. I do not have further descriptions on these two items or measurements on them. He did not include that.
No. It says collage, but they're not two-dimensional. They're three-dimensional.
They
You can
are
walk around.
three-dimensional. I don't know if any of those are going to be coming in. We are going to be, it looks like it's actually all three pieces go together in, if it's calling it collage, it looks like all three are part of an exhibit
That they would go
with
be like a
all
triptych.
together, a triptych.
Right. I get that impression too, Gay.
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
it's a triptych.
Interesting.
But there are
Our
three.
gift policy says we can do whatever we want with it.
Yes.
If he's
Yeah, so we
if
could
he's willing, if
accept
he's
them
willing
and just
to,
say, you know, figure it out later.
Could we just pass and move on? Pass
Yeah.
on it and move on?
Yeah, we could say no.
Okay. So I'm just, yeah, I mean, if we are kind of on the fence, I think everybody is trying to be polite and just,
Mhm.
hey, there's no accounting for taste.
Do we want to have a vote on do we want them or not? Or should
maybe
we
we
just?
can,
They
we can
certainly
get
don't
a
seem to
show of
tie in
hands.
thematically to the library in any special way.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
is
I mean-
exactly what I was thinking.
Not like kids reading a book on a bench.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll take another bench with kids reading a book.
So unless I'm hearing otherwise, I'm happy to tell Goatsy that it's probably not the right match for the library.
right,
Unless
certainly, you know, it's a very generous thought, and we appreciate it. I'm sure it's very heartfelt, and it is very nice artwork. So
Yeah.
we appreciate the,
Yeah, okay.
the thought.
I'm hearing that, right. I'm good with this.
Okay.
All right.
He might want
Thank
to
you,
try the
though.
senior. He might want to try the senior center.
That's true.
Yep.
Look at that grin.
No, it's just
You're going to see
Maybe-
his work in the case briefly before he departs
Yeah,
the country.
it's coming in either Thursday or Friday. I'm waiting for him to tell me which date the case is ready for him.
Okay. Kay, do you have anything else for the
No.
art and exhibits?
No,
Okay,
that was plenty.
great. Then it'll move on. Carol, do you have any update for the MacIver series?
No, I do not. No, thank you. I
Okay.
will come back though before long. I will come back with something.
Okay, thank you. For the Friends, just speaking about the programming, Jay and I are on the programming committee. There's some exciting programming coming up. We're planning that for the next fiscal year. Jay, do you have any other updates on that?
no. Other than I think we have a couple of good things tentatively scheduled for over the next year. We've had some communications with the folks at the Museum of Fine Arts, and there may be some programs that will coincide with some of their upcoming exhibits, including a few that have, you know, diversity themes, which would be nice. And a couple of last year we had Eric Jackson from GBH do a series of events, and this year my friend Brian O'Donovan, who does Celtic Sojourn, Irish music, you know, popular thing, he's going to be doing a couple events also, and there's some other interesting things cooking.
And very quickly, one of those interesting ones, a guy I know here in Needham, Dan Barbarisi, is going to be one of the speakers. I believe the first one in October. He wrote a book, I believe it's called Chasing the Thrill, I think, that recently came out. It's gotten quite a bit of media attention. It's about that massive treasure hunt that happened out in the West, where a millionaire buried a couple $1 million worth of gold and jewelry. But it's gotten a lot of national attention, and Dan did a lot of his research for that at the library here in Needham. And I understand, and I'll need to buy a copy, but I understand that the library is mentioned in the acknowledgements in the book.
Nice.
Certainly some nice shout out to the library and the librarians there. So moving on down, Joan, do you have any updates from the foundation?
Just that we have 2 new members and we're very excited because they have school-aged children. So they'll bring a new perspective to the foundation. Thank you.
Glad to hear it.
Could you share the names?
Yes. Katie Damon, she's on Thornton Road in Needham, and Melissa Taylor, she's on Webster Street in Needham.
Great. Well, thank you for that update, Joan. Are there any trustee comments?
Just one, whether or not, and maybe it should have been on new business, but would the trustees want to pen a thank you to the folks who put together the flowers urns in the front of the library? Yeah.
Oh, Anne.
You're on.
I have written them a thank you. And I also sent a letter to the editor.
Great, thank you.
And I did my usual with the Garden Club and just confirmed their dates for the next year. So they're very happy.
For the sake of the minutes, thank you. Those are gorgeous flowers. I saw them driving past a few times this week. They're really nice.
So Rob, I managed to get an e-arc of that book, and here is what it says. Oh, and a shout out to the librarians at the Needham, Massachusetts Library for helping me to figure out how to get books from other libraries, pointing me in several right directions, and having an excellent children's room to occupy my frenetic sons.
That's great.
So that's in the acknowledgement part.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that book's getting a lot of traction. So
Good.
Great. And you know, just for me, thank you to Anne and Dimitri and all of the staff. You know, it's been a crazy couple of weeks with reopening, but it's so wonderful to step back into the library and to see all of this happening. And also thank you for handling the situation last night with such professionalism. That is an extremely stressful situation, but we're glad to hear that, you know, all the procedures were followed and everybody got out quickly and safely. So a big thank you.
And the Needham Police and Fire Department were excellent. And so was the state bomb squad. I was impressed with all of them.
Yeah, that sounds extremely stressful and traumatic, but I'm very glad that that there was no threat.
And it sounds like we should all know what a Chromebook is. A Chromebook, is that what it actually was? We all should familiarize ourselves.
Well,
They look like.
the police have gone to the school department and asked them to please change their packaging of them.
So let me show you what it looked like.
Yeah,
You
I
understand why we had an
I
issue.
saw that picture, interesting.
This is what it looks like, guys. That's what we saw under the table.
That does look
Oh.
very suspicious.
Oh, dear.
Oh,
That's
Yeah,
not
that-
what you expect a computer in a box to look like.
No,
that's very suspicious looking. Yeah, okay. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
yeah.
right. It was stressful for the staff who were here, and they did everything right.
Thank you for your caution. It's that's really good to see, but hopefully not something we'll have to deal with ever again.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think that's it for today's meeting. We almost ended on time. I'll provide any updates that we have on the director search process in the interim. Otherwise, I'll see everybody at the July meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right. I'll run through quickly. Jay,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
Kay,
Bye.
Carol,
Aye.
and myself, I. Thanks. Hope you all have a great month of June, and we'll talk in early July.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Hi, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Right.